Hello, fellow preppers. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. Once again, it's Sunday, June 17, 2012. Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there watching. And if your father's no longer with us, like my father who passed on, I'd take a little moment to remember. Well, before I get started, I'd like to thank everybody that's been watching and comments. I appreciate the kind words and well wishes. And the new people, welcome aboard. Hope you keep watching. Hope you enjoy. Hope maybe you learn something, because I think that's the most important thing here is spreading knowledge, sharing knowledge, and doing it, together here. Now, in a video earlier today, I had alluded to some paperwork that I found from the 90s. Yeah, this is November 1991. It's called the McAlvany Intelligence Advisor. No, McAlvany. M-C-A-L-V-A-N-Y. I don't even know if it's still in existence. But one of the things in this particular edition, November 1991, was called Getting Out of Harm's Way, How to Survive the Coming Financial Political Crunch. This is November 1991. And they're talking about financial political crunch. This is 2012. What are we talking about? Now, I'm not sure if this is a Christian-based publication or not, but they refer to the Bible a few times. Funny thing is, I just noticed that this came out of Phoenix, Arizona. Imagine that. Well, it says that Proverbs 27:12, the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and suffer for it. Self-explanatory. It says, surviving and prospering in difficult, trying times is a function of proper mental attitude and proper preparation. Maybe that's where I learned some of the stuff I've been talking about from. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? It says, just kind of skimming over this, says, the narrow margin between victory and defeat, between honor or dishonor, between survival or death, or slavery is mental attitude. Having a stubborn vision of victory, a courage and tenaciousness, an instinct of survival that says, as Winston Churchill encouraged the British people, never, 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 never give up. The difference between survival and death for many terminally diagnosed people is the tenacious instinct for survival. But here's what's important. But in addition to the instinct for survival and a vision of overcoming difficult, seemingly insurmountable circumstances, proper preparation for difficult times is an important ingredient to survival. Most people will not prepare in advance for difficult economic or political times. Where did I hear that before? And many only react to a crisis after they're up to their eyeballs in alligators. Said Gary North once wrote about the 4 G's of survival: God, guns, gold, and groceries. While all these are essential elements of survival, there are even more elements which should be considered in the period which lies ahead and for the balance of the 1990s. See, 90, 2000, 2010. 20 years, 20 plus years have passed. It says, elements of survival preparation for the coming crunch. Once again, we're talking about in the 90s, the crunch. Mental attitude, principles, and disciplines of preparedness. Number 1, change your mindset. Begin to look at everything differently. 2, Begin to develop discernment about people. Train yourself to watch what people do, not what they say. We live in a day of great deception, and we need to become sensitive about what is true or false in people. I'm only chuckling because it's true. It says when you invest, this is number 3, when you invest first in the right people. An investment can be great and people untrustworthy or incompetent, and it will fail. Find like-minded, trustworthy people to invest in or with. Invest with or in people who share your worldview. Kind of like birds of a feather flocking together. It says, honestly look at yourself, your strengths, and your weaknesses. The Bible says to know yourself. Discover what in your life is not working. Work on or moderate the weaknesses. Common sense. Do we really need... Don't we already know this? Do we need to hear it again? Yes, we do. Repeatedly. Till it sinks in. Seek the counsel of others you trust. Number 5. It says, seek wise and godly counsel of persons whose life is working well. I think I've alluded to that before. How many times people, when they're having problems, they talk to the wrong people. It amazes me. You're going to talk to somebody who's where you want to be, or heading where you want to be, but maybe a little further along down the trail. It's just common sense. I mean, if I want to talk about farming, I'm going to talk to some guy that's farming, not some guy that's laying bricks, unless he happens to be doing both, but I think the point's made. It says, number 6, find like-minded people who understand where this country is going, who have the instincts for survival, and who are taking steps to get prepared for difficult times which lie ahead. Now remember, this is the 90s. Back in the mid to late 70s, that's when survivalists came up. And then there was the scare about, the year 2000, Y2K, and all that nonsense. But, I mean, all we'd have to do is change the date. Instead of November 1991, put June 2012. I don't think we'd have to change much else. Number 7, find alternate methods of doing everything. Develop other methods outside the system, i.e. bartering, growing your own food, swapping a product or service you have with a farmer for food he grows, etc. That's something what preppers and survivalists have been talking about. Number 8, develop an instinct for what doesn't feel right. Become sensitive to what you have a hesitation to doing. Sometimes our gut instincts or subconscious can keep us out of trouble. Some don't feel right. You don't have to rush into it, whether it's making a deal, getting involved with the person or group. Don't let anybody pressure you. Think your own mind and do it in your own time. Just don't slack, and you know when you're slacking. I don't have to tell you. Number 9, begin to eliminate non-essentials from your life. Eliminate time or money wasters. Eliminate time or money wasters. That's good. Buy only what you really need, not what you want. Well, that's sensible. Live below your means. Develop habits of life to eliminate waste. Yep, I'd say that's pretty important. Number 10, develop physical, mental, and spiritual disciplines before a crisis arrives, so they can be used naturally and without effort during the crisis. Got to work on the body, got to keep the mind right. That's just part of being prepared. I tell you, working around this ranch this past week, it's been a workout. Oh man. Number 11, learn to treat everything as if it were irreplaceable. Treat everything as if it is the last one you can ever get, i.e. your car, tools, boots, guns, etc. That's something that a lot of people take for granted, is they don't take care of their toys and their tools. I mean, I've got stuff that I've had for decades. 20, 30 years. Works just fine. I've lent it to people and they've broken it within 24 hours or a week. It's just amazing. And sometimes I just would like to be a fly on the wall to see what they do, how they break these things that I've had the use of for so long. I mean, if you're turning sockets, yeah, every now and then you'll put too much torque on a socket and you break, and that's why I buy Sears Craftsman, because they'll replace it free. But some things, people, they use the wrong tool for the job. They wind up bending a good screwdriver or chipping it or breaking it. A screwdriver ain't a chisel. Just like a kitchen knife ain't a screwdriver. How many people use kitchen knives instead of getting up off their rump and going out to the toolbox or tool shed getting a screwdriver? They use a kitchen. I've seen people do that. It just amazes me. It's just misuse. But some people don't think that way. And that's just that. That's what they want to do. Is that how they want to treat their stuff? Fine. Just don't treat my stuff like that. Maybe I should go back to eliminate non-essentials from your life. Eliminate time or money wasters. I think that might go for people too. Number 12. Buy things that will last even if they cost more. Yeah, like that rigid toolbox I just showed you in the other video. That sucker will probably outlast me. Something mechanical that does not need power is better than something that needs power. And especially if you're thinking and you're preparing for living off grid, might not have power. Then they talk about, that was A, mental attitude, principles, and disciplines of preparedness. B, debt reduction. Reducing one's debt to as close to zero as possible is essential in the coming financial crunch. Enough said. C, budgeting. Most Americans live above their means. No, learn to live below your means. I've been living below my means since the 80s. My friends used to tease me about it, but now I got a ranch bought and paid for. They don't. Not to brag, not to laugh. Just to tell you, I made certain choices, they made different choices. Life is choices. It says avoid weak financial institutions. Well, we've seen what's happened to the banking industry, haven't we? Remember, 1991. It says, E, investment markets to avoid. He says, ... has never seen fewer good investment opportunities for conservative investors than today. Never seen fewer. The upside potential for most investments is very limited, and the downside risk is very high. 1991. Talked about bonds are vulnerable. Corporate bonds are vulnerable. Municipal bonds are regularly being downgraded. 1991, people! It says prime rate funds should be avoided like the AIDS virus. This is just unbelievable. So, 1991, this, we were warned. Very interesting. Talks about buying gold and financial safe havens and precious metals. That wasn't bad advice. Talked about legal protection, Section G. America today is the most litigious country in the world. Some things don't change. History is repeating itself. H, physical preparations for greater self-sufficiency. Food preserves. Number 1, food reserves. Number 2, firearms. Number 3, country living, a retreat. Country living. Number 4, nuclear bomb shelter. Now we're getting out in the fringe. Number 5, self-sufficiency skills. It says there are a number of skills which most city dwellers who have grown up over the past generation or two do not have, such as hunting, backpacking, cross-country skiing, carpentry, gunsmithing, auto mechanics, organic gardening, canning, a knowledge of emergency medicine including herbology, homeopathics, and other alternate methods of healing, ham radio, etc. Talks about homeschooling your kids. It says section J, keeping healthy, understanding nutrition and alternate medicine. It says conclusion. Once again, November 1991. America is headed for difficult times. Whether the great majority recognize it at this point or not, and they do not. But one does not have to have a feeling of helplessness or despair if one is prepared or preparing for these times. There's a great deal one can do to protect oneself and one's family financially and physically if one chooses to do so. But first, one must acknowledge that we have a gigantic, looming financial/political problem in America. That the government will not solve these problems. I.e., government is the problem, not the solution. And that we, with the help of the God of the Bible, must be responsible for the health, wealth, and welfare of our own families. It says survival preparedness, 65% mental and 35% physical/financial preparation. So, this is probably maybe in the boring zone, but I thought I should just go through it because now you've heard a part of my past, and fast forward today and you can see where I'm at, what I did, and I don't know how much of that stuck, but looking back it looked like it all stuck pretty much. There are a few things I kind of messed up on, but all in all, pretty satisfied with what's happened. Once again, I prepared, I took action, choices. I keep repeating myself, but some things just bear repeating. Such as, if you fail to prepare today, you're preparing to fail tomorrow.